Hello and welcome. So today, guys, we are going to continue on a series that I've had here on the channel for a couple of months. This is the one where we talk about fragrances that I believe should have been hyped, but were not or have not. And today I have for you a total of 6 fragrances. 3 of them are Eastern niche or Middle Eastern, and 3 of them are Western niche. I really believe these fragrances are quite exceptional, and a couple of them are pretty new, but they're not getting much attention. And I just wonder why, because they really are exceptional fragrances. So today I'm going to share them with you. I'm going to give you some details about them, and you can let me know if you think they should have been hyped or not. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and in this channel we love to talk about fragrances because we love to smell fabulous at all times. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and share these 6 fragrances with you. And I just want you to know that I'm sharing them in no particular order. So the first fragrance that I want to share with you is NISHANE ZENNE. We don't talk much about ZENNE. I think that I've only heard one other person talk about ZENNE. This fragrance is a lovely fragrance for the spring and summer seasons, even though it's one that you can definitely pull off all year long. This fragrance is quite fruity. It has a good amount of vanilla, and the vanilla has been done exquisitely. It has a touch of greenness and a bit of an animalic quality to it that just adds edge to the fragrance overall. It also has a beautiful rose. It has a tad bit of woodiness and a powdery dry down. But in the end, what you are going to get is a beautiful powdery dry down that is just perfection between the fruitiness and that incredible vanilla. Overall, this fragrance is an exceptional fragrance, like I said before, and perfect for the spring and summer seasons. This is the type of fragrance that will get you 7+ hours without having to overspray, and it is a very high compliment getter for me. Even though this fragrance is fruity and is sweet and has that vanilla, I still think that it is definitely unisex, but leaning feminine. For me, the dominant notes are definitely those fruity notes, all of the fruits, and then that vanilla. But I do get a little bit of the black currant. And as far as florals, I get just the gardenia and quite a bit of musk. As far as maturity, I would say that this is a 30+ fragrance. And as far as the oud meter, I really don't pick up on any oud in this fragrance. But if you own ZENNE, let me know if you've picked up on any type of oud, because they did not disclaim that there was oud in the fragrance, but they don't always tell us all the notes involved. But to my nose, I really don't pick up any oud. The next fragrance that I want to share with you is an Eastern niche or Middle Eastern fragrance. And this is one from a very new collection. I actually shared several of the fragrances that are included in this collection in a recent haul, maybe like a month ago. And this fragrance is very new, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about it. And after the haul, I never circled back with you with a detailed review. So today I will be doing that. And the collection I'm speaking about is the Latafa Niche Emarati collection. And within that collection, I'm talking about REMAS. I have to tell you guys, this fragrance is just perfection. It has the most beautiful mango note. The mango here, guys, is ripe and very juicy. As it opens up, like I said, with that very juicy mango. But that mango is also paired with like some citrus notes that lend a little bit of freshness to the fragrance and does not allow that very ripe and juicy mango to become a cloying type of note. You have some bergamot, and I pick up on a little bit of orange and some lemon. The opening is just exquisite. If you haven't tried this fragrance, you are going to love the opening if you try it. Then as the journey continues, you start to pick up on some florals. But to be honest with you, the only floral that I really distinctively pick up immediately is the jasmine. And the jasmine is with me all throughout the journey until the dry down and for as long as I'm wearing the fragrance. But please don't be mistaken. The star of this fragrance, without a doubt, is that mango. At the dry down, I get a beautiful, creamy kind of vanilla with like mango and like a touch of orange. And it's all like on an ambery quality type of scent. Just a beautiful dry down. This fragrance, I just don't understand why it hasn't gotten more attention, why it hasn't been hyped, especially since we've now entered spring and we're moving into the summer. This fragrance is absolutely exceptional. If you've tried this fragrance, can you please leave a comment for all of us, letting us know your thoughts? And if you haven't tried this fragrance, I don't know if you're able to get a sample or a decant, but I tell you, this is a love. If you are into mango fragrances, you must try this fragrance. I tell you, you can thank me later. I promise you, you are going to love this fragrance. This is a fragrance that right now, and it's been with me a couple of months, so it hasn't even had a chance to sit for many months at a time, but it really hasn't needed to sit much, but I'm getting 7+ hours. I'm getting a strong projection during the first hour and a half, and then it becomes a scent bubble, and it gets me a very good sillage. It's not moderate, but it's not strong. As far as maturity, I think anybody, any age can use this fragrance because not only does it have a bit of a tropical twist to it, but it's also like a fun fragrance without being too juvenile. An oud note has not been disclaimed anywhere that I did research on, but I can tell you that to my nose, there really is absolutely no oud in this fragrance. This is also a fragrance that I do not consider unisex. This to me is truly a feminine fragrance. I can't imagine a man really pulling this one off. And this is also a fragrance that if I could give it a 20 out of 10, I would give it 20 because it is truly, guys, exceptional. It is a beautiful fruity fragrance. It performs exquisitely, and it is a fragrance that is just perfection for the spring and summer. I just don't understand why it has not been hyped. I don't know. This next fragrance is from a fragrance house that I really do enjoy and I absolutely love. And I even have a dedicated video for the fragrance house where I share my entire collection from this fragrance house and I talk in detail about what they're about and the DNA of their fragrances and other details that you may be interested in. I will link it right above here. And yes, I'm talking about the Merchant of Venice, and the fragrance that I want to talk to you about next is My Pearls. My Pearls is truly one of my favorite fragrances from this fragrance house. But in addition to that, this is a fragrance that I pull when I want that clean, aesthetic kind of feel. It is perfect if you just want to smell clean and you want to be fresh, just on a beautiful spring warm day or a very hot summer day. This fragrance opens with a good amount of white florals and it has a very dominant rose. Even though the white florals are present, the rose is definitely dominant in that opening. I pick up on it clearly. But this rose is like a dewy, fresh rose. You know, like one that you would find in a garden when it has just like bloomed. It's just absolute perfection. Like I said, this fragrance is quite fresh and it does have a touch of greenness. There's some woodiness all throughout the journey, but the woodiness is like light and in the background because everything about this fragrance is quite smooth. But even though this fragrance is very smooth, it's not weak and it performs very well. The dominant notes for me in this fragrance are definitely a beautifully done violet, the rose, which is just exquisite, some pink pepper that adds a little bit of spiciness to it, and musk. This is a very musky fragrance, which adds to that freshness. This fragrance, when I tell you, is just perfection for those very, very warm spring and summer days where you just want to feel fresh all day while smelling absolutely beautiful. This to me is not a unisex fragrance at all. This is truly a feminine fragrance. As far as the maturity meter, I would say that this is a 25 plus fragrance. Someone that is in their teens or in their very, very early 20s, I don't think would really appreciate this fragrance, but I think that 25 plus is definitely the perfect fit. As far as the oud meter, there is absolutely no oud in this fragrance because this is truly a clean musk fragrance. This is the type of fragrance that you can use truly all year, but I reserve it for the spring and summer seasons because the feel of it is just so beautiful and perfect to keep me in that fresh feeling of spring and summer. I will tell you though that this fragrance does have a powdery dry down. But even though it has that powdery dry down, it doesn't lose its freshness. So that powderiness will never be like too much. You know how some powdery fragrances are like just a bit much, especially if you use them during the summer season? Not this fragrance. There is an inherent freshness that comes along with this fragrance that I just absolutely love. The longevity of this fragrance is just perfection because typically I find that fragrances with this scent profile don't tend to perform very well for obvious reasons. They're meant to be soft, right? But this fragrance, although it is soft, it does give me 7+ hours with a very strong projection during the first hour, after which it becomes a scent bubble. And the sillage on this fragrance is quite exceptional, I must say, because this is a fragrance that will leave a trail. So time and time again, I've tried to understand, try to find some reasoning behind the fact that this fragrance has not been hyped as a beautiful musk. I mean, you have other musk fragrances that I don't even think are that great and that certainly do not perform very well, and they have been highly hyped. This one, it hasn't been hyped at all. I think I've only heard a couple of other people talk about this fragrance through the years, so I just don't understand. If you've gotten your nose on my pearls, can you please let me know your thoughts on it? The next fragrance is a fragrance that I actually hauled here on the channel, and it is an Eastern niche or Middle Eastern fragrance. And when I first hauled it, I just really didn't know what to make of it. I knew that there were some white florals in it, but it was such a complex fragrance. And it really had not even had a chance to sit. Not that I'm saying that it had any particular smell that I did not like. No, I just really needed to become more acquainted with the fragrance because this fragrance is, number one, very, very powerful and intense. And number two, it is a fragrance with quite a bit of character. But I can tell you that I do not understand how it's gone below radar because this is a fragrance that, in my opinion, should have definitely been hyped and people should be talking about it, especially now that we've entered the spring season. And I'm speaking about Paris Corner Rua. So guys, Rua is just a fragrance that you must try. Let me tell you. So this fragrance opens with the lychee and the pear. And at the beginning, I have to be honest with you, I didn't know if I liked that combination of lychee and pear because I think this is like one of the very few fragrances that I have in my collection that opens with lychee and pear. But in addition to that, and to keep it fresh, there's bergamot here, but the bergamot is not front and center. The bergamot is in a supporting role, but the lychee and the pear are definitely the ones opening this fragrance. Then almost immediately, I pick up on the vanilla, but the vanilla comes in and it doesn't sweeten the fragrance because this fragrance is a tad sweet, but I wouldn't say that this is really a sweet fragrance. I'm telling you, it is such an interesting but beautiful fragrance. It is quite complex. So the vanilla comes in, it doesn't really sweeten the fragrance, and almost immediately I pick up on the oud and the incense. There is something going on between the oud and the incense that just give this fragrance a complete twist. If you've gotten your nose on this fragrance, can you let me know if you pick up on what I mean? That combination of like oud and incense, and the oud here, which we'll talk later about the oud meter, but the oud here is not weak, but it's not crazy intense. It's definitely not barnyard level type of oud, but it is an oud that is definitely present throughout the entire journey and dry down of this fragrance. The incense though, although it's coupled with the oud, is more of like in a supporting role. At this point in the journey, I am definitely getting the lychee, the pear, that beautiful vanilla, a tad sweetness, and definitely the oud and the incense. But the incense is quite faint. At the dry down, I'm actually getting all of those notes, but they're like atop a like creamy quality vanilla. And I don't know where that creaminess is coming from. You know, I checked several times to see if maybe there was some sandalwood or some patchouli, but I'm not picking up on patchouli at all, and I'm not picking up on sandalwood at all, or anything nutty to give it that creaminess. But the vanilla at the dry down to my nose is definitely creamy, and I still continue to pick up on that mix of the lychee and pear. So although rose is a note that is disclaimed for this fragrance, the rose for me is not like front and center or dominant in any way. What I do pick up is some white florals, but not necessarily the rose. Very interesting. I tell you, it took me quite a while to kind of understand this fragrance and really appreciate it. And now I just think that it should have been hyped because this is quite different. This is definitely a fragrance that has oud, as I said before, but it's not a barnyard or a very intense oud. But this is definitely a fragrance where you will pick up on the oud. This is also a fragrance that I think, as far as maturity, I think this is a 30 plus fragrance. So 30 years old and above. To me, this is a unisex fragrance, but leaning quite heavy towards the feminine side. I think that the fact that you have that oud present with that little bit of incense, and the fact that the fragrance is not really sweet is something that would allow a man to probably pull it off. But this is, to me, primarily a feminine fragrance. This is the type of fragrance that I know that you can use all year round in any season for any occasion, day or night. This is actually a fragrance that you could make your signature scent. This next fragrance is from a fragrance house that's known to not be very easy as far as falling in love with their fragrances immediately. But I have to tell you that this fragrance that I'm going to share with you, to me, and I have quite a number of their fragrances, but this fragrance to me is the easiest to pull off and the easiest to get used to and the most friendly of all of their fragrances, to call it something. And I'm speaking about AMOUAGE Portrayal Woman. This, like all AMOUAGE fragrances, does not disappoint in bringing kind of like a challenge to your nose, because this fragrance, guys, this fragrance is really a white floral fragrance with some tobacco. That's really what I pick up in this fragrance. It's the white florals with the tobacco and some vanilla. It is sweet and it's very aromatic and has a balsamic quality to it. This is a fragrance that I remember when I first picked it up, I was like, oh my goodness, are those white florals? And what is that? I couldn't figure out the tobacco, because the tobacco is not like a dry and very dominant tobacco note. The tobacco note here has been blended exquisitely to almost be seamless and complementary to the white florals that are present. And of all the white florals, the dominant floral to my nose is definitely the jasmine. This is a fragrance that within the AMOUAGE line, I just don't understand why it was never hyped. I mean, you have fragrances such as Guidance that came out and immediately was like, oh my goodness, right? And then you have other fragrances like Sunshine Woman and Bloom. Like there's other fragrances that have come out and have immediately been hyped. But this one that I am telling you, this is the most user-friendly, in my opinion, of their fragrances, came out and it's like it immediately went below radar. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this fragrance, even though I'm sure someone must have, because it is an incredible fragrance. This, I think, if you are an AMOUAGE lover, this is a safe blind buy. This is not a fragrance house that I ever recommend that you blind buy anything. So if it is possible for you to get a decant or a sample, if the notes and what I've said interest you, for you to try it before you decide to pick it up. But this is really an exquisitely beautiful fragrance that I believe should have been hyped and that I think is perfect for the spring and summer seasons. This is definitely a beast fragrance, guys. This gets me 8+ hours without having to overspray, but that is kind of like what I get most of the time from my AMOUAGE fragrances in general. But this one is quite strong, and the projection is super strong for 2 hours, and then it becomes a scent bubble, but a very strong scent bubble. It also does have a moderate sillage. This is a fragrance that when I've worn it, I haven't really gotten compliments, but it is definitely one that I can smell on myself and that I absolutely love to wear during these seasons. This is a fragrance that really you can pull off all year round. The last fragrance that I want to share with you is one that I really left for last on purpose, because from this group right now, it is my number 2 favorite, because the first one is definitely REMAS. But this next fragrance, guys, when I tell you, this has gone so below radar because it is truly an exceptionally beautiful fragrance. And it is so new. Maybe that's what it is, that it's too new and people still don't know about this collection. I actually have several fragrances from this collection, and I will be filming a video soon because these fragrances are just exquisite and nobody's talking about them. So this fragrance is from Swiss Arabian, and this one is Amber and Apricot. Let me just start by telling you that this fragrance opens with very much of an ambery quality to it. And the dominant note, the star of this fragrance throughout the entire journey and for your entire wear of the fragrance, is a very juicy and realistic apricot. Let me tell you, I have several fragrances with the note of apricot, but this is definitely the most realistic I have in my collection. And I am absolutely enjoying it because I find that the note of apricot, you would think it's kind of like an easy note, but apricot, it's almost like the fragrance needs to strike a balance in order to allow the apricot to shine. But in this fragrance, no. This fragrance, I can tell, was designed to just have the apricot take front center stage. As I said before, this fragrance opens with a very realistic and juicy apricot. And along with the apricot, you are going to get some citrusy notes, and it's really bergamot and like orange and maybe some lemon. As the journey continues, this fragrance gets more and more interesting because you are going to start to pick up on the note of pomegranate paired with, are you ready, with some fig. So typically when I have fig in a fragrance, I can either like the fragrance or really not care for the fragrance. But in this one, oh my goodness, that fig is pairing absolutely beautifully with all the other fruits. It's like they're all on the same team and they've decided to just make us fall in love because it is perfection. At the dry down, I get like the most beautiful, sweet, musky vanilla, which is like the backdrop to like a whole collection of fruits where I can clearly pick up on the very dominant apricot. But I also still pick up on a little bit of the fig, and I definitely pick up on the pomegranate and the freshness of the citrusy notes from the opening. I tell you, this fragrance gives you a journey that is perfection for the spring and summer seasons. And it doesn't lose its freshness all throughout. It is just beautiful. Even with the amount of vanilla in here and the sweetness, it is not cloying at all. It is just a beautifully exquisite, fruity, like very, very juicy type of apricot fragrance. Just like the name says it, it's truly all about the apricot. This fragrance is one that I do not consider to be unisex. This is truly a female fragrance. And this is a fragrance that right now, without having had a chance to sit much, but I think maybe 3 weeks it's been with me, it's giving me 6+ hours with a very strong projection and moderate sillage. As far as for maturity, I think that this is a fragrance that anybody can pull off. This is just perfection for spring and summer. Just a beautiful fragrance that you can dress up, you can dress down for any occasion, day and night. As far as the oud meter, I'm not picking up on oud at all in this fragrance. I can almost assure you there is no oud in this fragrance, because this fragrance is all about, like I said before, those fruity notes coupled with the citrusy effect of it, and then that sweet vanilla on that musky base. Of all of the fragrances that I've shared with you today, this is definitely the safest blind buy. No matter how incredible I have found this fragrance to be and how much I've enjoyed, really using this fragrance, I don't understand why I haven't heard not one other person talk about this fragrance. I thought that once I shared the haul and I shared the couple of fragrances, because I shared this one and another one which is also exceptional, which is called Jasmine and Honey. And then I picked up another one that I haven't even hauled with you guys. But I think I'm just going to do a review of the 3 fragrances as soon as I'm done testing that third one. But when I tell you this fragrance, I haven't heard anybody talk about it. And I just know that as soon as people start to get their nose on it, they're going to be quite excited about this fragrance. Anyway, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing about these 6 exceptional fragrances that have not been hyped at all, and that I don't understand why, because they truly are fragrances that are worthy of being hyped, and not just hyped, but of receiving some love, because they really, really are perfect for the spring and summer seasons. I just don't know what is it about them that people have not really talked about them. If you've tried any of them, please let me know in the comments section along with your thoughts. Thank you so much for hanging with me today as always, and I will see you in the next video.